Welcome to Whispers of Christ, a Christian ND podcast, dear listeners. We embark on a journey every episode, diving deep into near-death experiences that bridge our earthly existence with the profound love of Christ. These stories aim to illuminate the path for those who are seeking solace, seeking understanding, and seeking Him. Our guest today had an incredible encounter at the very crossroads of life and death. As a young man, passionate about the thrill of dirt biking, an accident on one fateful day introduced him to truths that words often fail to capture. However, we will do our best to explore his story and its ramifications today. Welcome, Mark. How are you feeling today?
Thank you for having me, Pastor Don James. I'm feeling grateful. It's always a bit surreal to share my story, especially in such a dedicated space as this podcast. I've always been a man of few words, but there's so much to say about that day.
I completely resonate with that sentiment. You know, when I was a child, I too had an encounter that went beyond words. A car crash that I miraculously survived introduced me to the infinite love of Christ in ways I couldn't fathom as a young boy. It took years to even begin to understand and vocalize it. Tell me, Mark, outside of your life-altering experience, what are some of your passions? I'd love for our listeners to get to know you a bit more.
Dirt biking was always a passion of mine, even after the accident. I think there's something about feeling the wind rush against you, the ground underneath, and the sheer freedom of it. It's invigorating. But besides that, I've always been drawn to nature, hiking, and spending time in quiet reflection. Nature, in many ways, has been a sanctuary for me. It's where I feel closest to Him.
Nature truly is God's canvas. The beauty, the intricacies, it's almost like a direct connection to the divine. And it's fascinating how many of us find solace in the natural world when grappling with spiritual questions. Before we dive into the heart of your story, do you have any favorite Bible verses or teachings that have kept you anchored during challenging times?
Absolutely. One that comes to mind is Romans 8:28, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. It's a reminder that even in the face of adversity, there's a bigger picture and a purpose that might not be immediately clear to us.
That is truly powerful, Mark. It's a testament to the boundless love of Christ and the intricate tapestry of our lives, woven with purpose and intent. I look forward to diving deep into your journey, the trials, and the revelations. Let's get started. So, Mark, let's begin at the start of that fateful day. Paint us a picture of your emotions, the setting, the excitement of your dirt bike ride. What was it that drew you to such an adrenaline-filled activity?
Dirt biking was an escape for me. It was the one place where I felt truly alive, where the concerns of the world faded and it was just me, the bike, and the open trail. That day started like any other ride. The sun was out, not a cloud in the sky, and I could feel the anticipation building as I prepped my bike. I remember the scent of the desert air, mixed with the faint smell of gasoline. I felt free, untethered from my usual routines and responsibilities.
That sounds exhilarating. And nature has such a powerful way of drawing us in, offering both adventure and solace. As you set out on this ride, was there anything unusual or any foreboding feelings?
Not at all. In fact, I was in high spirits. The trail was familiar, a path I had taken multiple times. The roar of the bike beneath me, the dust kicking up behind, the rhythm of the terrain, it was all going as expected. Then, out of nowhere, something went wrong. I'm still not entirely sure what happened. Maybe I hit a rock or misjudged a turn. The next thing I knew, I was thrown off the bike and everything went black.
That's terrifying. Such a sudden shift from a state of pure exhilaration to an immediate threat. And it's in these moments, where we're on the edge, that we often find ourselves face to face with the divine. As you were thrown off the bike, amidst the shock and disarray, did you feel a presence or any immediate spiritual connection?
At first, no. The initial moment was just shock, confusion, and a rush of pain. But as the seconds ticked by, something shifted. It's hard to explain, but it felt like I was being pulled away from the scene, away from the desert, the sun, and my bike. There was a calmness, a serenity that started to envelop me. I felt, for the first time in my life, an overwhelming sense of peace and love. It was in this space, between the known and the unknown, that I started to sense a presence far greater than anything I'd ever known.
That's profoundly moving. It reminds me of my own experience after the car crash, the inexplicable peace amidst the chaos. There's a certain mystery to it, and I believe that's where Jesus meets us, in our most vulnerable moments. We'll delve deeper into this otherworldly journey of yours in the coming segments. So, Mark, you've painted a vivid picture of the accident's immediate aftermath, the sudden transition from earthly surroundings to something quite intangible. Let's explore this further. Can you describe in more detail this otherworldly realm you found yourself in?
It's always challenging to put this experience into words because it transcends our usual senses. But I'll try my best. As the chaos of the accident faded, I felt myself being enveloped in this soft, golden light. It was warm and comforting, like being wrapped in a gentle embrace. There was no pain, no fear, only an overwhelming sense of love. It felt like I was floating, surrounded by this light that was both around me and within me.
That sounds incredibly peaceful. I've often heard of the light being mentioned in near-death experiences. And while each person's encounter is unique, the recurring theme is always one of divine love and compassion. In this space, Mark, did you feel alone, or was there a sense of being accompanied?
That's what's truly remarkable. Even though I didn't immediately see anyone, I never felt alone. There was a palpable presence with me. As moments passed, that's when I saw him. Jesus. He appeared before me, not as a distant figure but as someone deeply familiar, like a long-lost friend. His gaze was filled with understanding and kindness.
The personal nature of Jesus' love is something that resonates with many. He's not just our Savior but our friend, our confidant. As he stood before you, did he communicate with you? And if so, how did that communication transpire?
There weren't spoken words, at least not in the way we understand them. But there was communication, a deep and profound exchange of emotions and understanding. He conveyed to me his love, not just for me but for all of humanity. There was a clarity in that moment, a realization of how deeply intertwined our lives are with his purpose.
It's beautiful how, in these encounters, the complexities of life distill into simple yet profound truths. This interaction with Jesus, this communion of souls, it sounds life-altering. As we continue our conversation, I'm eager to hear about the insights and revelations from this experience, and how they've shaped your understanding of faith, life, and beyond. Being in the presence of Jesus, feeling his immense love, and being touched by that divine wisdom must have given you insights that many of us can only dream of. Can you share some of these spiritual insights that you gleaned from this encounter, Mark?
Absolutely. One of the most profound realizations was the interconnectedness of all things. I saw the tapestry of life, and every thread, no matter how insignificant it seemed, had purpose and meaning. Every action, every choice, every moment is part of a grander design. It's easy to get caught up in the struggles of everyday life and forget that there's a bigger picture. Jesus showed me the beauty and significance of every soul, how we're all part of his divine plan.
That's a powerful revelation. Often, in our mundane routines, we forget that we're all part of a divine orchestra, each playing our unique part. What else did you come to understand during this time?
I was also shown the true essence of love. We often equate love with feelings or emotions, but what I experienced was far deeper. It's a force, a universal constant, the very fabric that holds everything together. Jesus' love for us isn't just an emotion, it's an action, a commitment. It's selfless and boundless. And he wants us to love others with that same intensity and purity.
Indeed, love one another as I have loved you is a central teaching, and yet its depth is something we continue to grapple with. With these profound insights, did Jesus offer you any guidance or directives for your life going forward?
Yes, he did. While the specifics of our interaction remained deeply personal, the overarching message was one of purpose and mission. I was reminded that my time on earth is limited, but it's a gift. Every moment is an opportunity to be a vessel of his love, to touch lives, and to make a difference. He encouraged me to share my story, not for my own sake, but to help others find their way to him.
What an incredible mission, to be a beacon for others. Your journey and the insights you gained shed light on the eternal mysteries we often ponder. As we move forward in our conversation, I'm curious to know about your return from this realm and how you reconciled these divine truths with the realities of our earthly existence. So, after this profound encounter with Jesus and these spiritual revelations, there came a point where you had to return to our earthly realm. How did that transition occur, Mark?
It was both abrupt and gentle. Jesus and I shared a moment of deep understanding. While a part of me wanted to stay in that blissful realm, I knew I had a purpose to fulfill back on earth. He didn't have to say it, but I felt that there was more for me to do. And then, almost like a gentle tug, I began to feel myself drift back to consciousness. The soft golden light started to fade, replaced by the harsh sun of the desert and the sound of concerned voices around me.
That juxtaposition, from divine serenity to earthly concerns, must have been quite jarring. How did you initially cope with such a drastic shift in reality?
It was disorienting. Waking up to the pain of my injuries, the confusion of the accident scene, it was a stark contrast to the peace I had just experienced. For a while, I was in a daze, trying to grasp the enormity of what had just happened. I remember being rushed to the hospital, the flurry of medical staff around me, but my mind was elsewhere, processing the encounter with Jesus.
Such experiences often leave an indelible mark on our souls. As you began the process of physical healing, how did you reconcile this otherworldly experience with the realities of daily life? Were there moments of doubt or struggles in sharing your story with others?
Absolutely. The physical healing was one aspect, but the emotional and spiritual journey was a whole different challenge. At first, I kept the experience to myself. I wasn't sure how to articulate it, and I feared people might dismiss it or view it skeptically. But over time, the urge to share became stronger. I felt that by keeping it to myself, I was doing a disservice to Jesus' message. There were moments of doubt, of course. Moments when I questioned if it was all just a dream or a byproduct of the trauma. But deep down, the truth and authenticity of the experience were undeniable.
It's not uncommon for individuals with such profound experiences to grapple with doubt, especially in a world that often demands empirical evidence. But the heart knows what it has felt, and the soul recognizes divine truth. As we venture further into your story, I'm eager to understand how this experience influenced your subsequent journey of faith and the choices you made in your life. Mark, with such a significant experience under your belt, it's only natural that your perceptions of life, death, and faith underwent a transformation. Can you elaborate on how this near-death experience reshaped your understanding and approach to these concepts?
Definitely. Before the accident, I believed in God and Jesus, but it was more of a distant, abstract concept. After my encounter with Jesus, faith became personal. It wasn't just about attending church on Sundays or reciting prayers. It was about living every moment with a deeper connection to Him. I became more introspective, spending time in prayer and meditation, seeking His guidance in every aspect of my life.
It's truly inspiring how a single event can bring about such a profound shift in perspective. How did this renewed faith influence your day-to-day interactions and decisions?
I became more intentional in my actions and decisions. Before, I might have acted on impulse or without much thought. But now, I constantly sought to align my choices with His teachings. I began to see everyone around me, not just as acquaintances or strangers, but as fellow children of God, deserving of love and compassion. The barriers I had built over the years, whether due to past hurts or prejudices, began to dissolve. I also became more attuned to the fragility of life and the importance of cherishing every moment.
That's a beautiful transformation. Recognizing the divine in everyone and every moment is a profound way to live. Given your new perspective on life and death, how do you now view the concept of mortality?
Death is no longer a fearful unknown for me. While I cherish life and the opportunities it presents, I also recognize that death is just a transition, a doorway to another realm where Jesus awaits. It's not an end, but a continuation. I've also come to understand the importance of living a purpose-driven life, so when that moment of transition comes, I can face it with a heart full of gratitude and love.
Your insights are deeply moving. Facing life and death with such serenity and purpose is a testament to the transformative power of Jesus' love. As we move towards the conclusion of our conversation, I'm interested in hearing about the ways in which you've chosen to share your story and the impact it has had on others. Mark, the decision to share such a personal and profound experience with the world is a brave one. How did you go about sharing your story, and what kind of reactions and impacts have you witnessed?
At first, I began sharing my story with close friends and family. Their reactions varied. Some were deeply moved and felt a personal connection to what I had experienced. Others were skeptical or found it hard to believe. But I realized that the authenticity of my experience wasn't dependent on others' acceptance. I felt a strong calling to share this message more broadly. So, I began speaking at local churches, community gatherings, and eventually wrote a short memoir detailing the experience.
That's commendable. Every time we share personal revelations, it opens up the possibility of criticism or disbelief. Yet you persevered. In your interactions with those who've heard your story, have there been any particularly impactful moments or testimonies?
Yes, there have been many touching moments. One that stands out is a woman who approached me after a talk I gave. She had recently lost her son and was grappling with immense grief. My story gave her a sense of peace, a hope that her son was with Jesus, surrounded by the same infinite love I had experienced. It's moments like these that reaffirm my decision to share, to offer a glimmer of hope and comfort to others.
It's truly incredible how personal stories can resonate deeply and offer solace in the most unexpected ways. By sharing your journey, you're providing a beacon of hope and reinforcing the ever-present love of Jesus. As we draw this conversation to a close, I'd love to hear about your future plans and how you intend to continue spreading this message. As we wrap up this enlightening conversation, Mark, I'd like to thank you for sharing your journey with us. It's a testament to the boundless love and mercy of Jesus. Moving forward, how do you envision continuing your mission of spreading His love and your message?
Thank you for providing this platform to share. My primary focus is to live every day embodying the teachings of Jesus, letting His love shine through my actions. I will continue speaking and sharing my story wherever there's an opportunity, whether it's in written form, talks, or informal conversations. I also have plans to set up a support group for individuals who've had near-death experiences, offering a safe space for them to share and find understanding.
That's a wonderful initiative. The journey of integrating such profound experiences into daily life can be challenging, and having a supportive community can make all the difference. As we conclude today's episode, any final thoughts or messages you'd like to share with our listeners?
Just this: every moment we have on this earth is precious. Embrace it, cherish it, and always remember that Jesus' love is unwavering. No matter where you are in your journey, His arms are always open, ready to guide and comfort you.
That's a beautiful message to end on. To our listeners, thank you for joining us on Whispers of Christ, a Christian ND podcast. May today's conversation inspire you, offer solace, and remind you of the infinite love of Christ that surrounds us all. Until next time, stay blessed and keep seeking His presence.